Hi everybody, welcome to episode number 96. This is a home edition episode, so I'm coming to you from the backyard, and it's a beautiful crisp October day here. We've got a little bit of fall colors on the ivy, and I'm excited to get into this one. As you can see, it's scarf season, so I thought I would give you a bit of a view of the greenage and a little bit of fall colors, and la maison. Welcome, I hope you're all here. I'm going to check in on my side screen here to make sure that you're all connected. And let's check with that. I made myself a double cafe creme. This sucker is completely filled to the brim. But don't worry, I'm going to be able to get through it all. Beautiful. Welcome, I'm going to give everybody a second here to catch up. Check that everything's good. Let's see, I can see your comments here. Fantastic. Hi everybody, welcome. I'll let you all file in. It's nice to have you here from the humble abode and the lawn that I just mowed mere hours ago. In fact, maybe the last mowing of the season here. Who knows? Nice blue sky and everything. Got plenty of caffeination, so double espresso going on this time. Someone says they have no sound. Do other people have sound? Let me check everything here. Check. Let me know if you have sound, folks, because if not, that would be really lame. Bruce is saying you act like it's chilly. Yeah, it's a little bit chilly here, Bruce. It's a jacket and scarf weather for sure. Okay, Margaret's got sound. Lori can hear me. Hi, everybody. Thank you. So for the person who said they don't have sound, maybe just fiddle with some settings there. So let's just jump right into it here. People ask me sometimes, when we're on a tour and stuff, they ask me, what is your perfect Paris day? What to you, if you had just one day in the city, what would it be? And that's what this episode is about. It's called As Perfect a Paris Day. Because I was thinking, I would go through my photos often to, just preparing thumbnails and stuff like that. And I came across this one day that was pretty outstanding, actually. And I just noticed that within this time frame of just one day all on the same date, my camera roll of images was pretty extraordinary. The fact that I got to see this and then that and then that and then that and then that. Because when I'm roaming around town and giving tours and whatnot, obviously I come across lovely stuff, but just this one day stuck out as being pretty intense and pretty spectacular. And for me, what makes a day perfect is a mixture of stuff that the classics, tried and true, like your favorite cafe, your favorite food, but then also with a lot of new, unexpected discoveries thrown in there, which is, as you know, what Paris does so well, and that's really what I've come to really expect from Paris. Not to be a glutton about it, not to be greedy about it, but that's what the city does, and that's what keeps me coming back. So this was November 8th, 2018. So we're going back almost 2 full years, and but it's worth it. It's really fun. And what I did is I'm going to show you the slideshow as I talk us through it. And I even put the timestamp of the time of day on this November 8th. So we can just keep track of, it was just one thing after the other. It was pretty fun. I was actually giving a tour that morning. So a few of the early images are me on my way to give my walking tour, and then some things that I found unexpectedly along that route. So there we go. Let's start and jump right into it. Let me check in with everybody here. Heather Jackson says 58 degrees Fahrenheit in Paris. Yeah, it's actually a little bit less. Definitely feels like less. You're gonna have to listen to me slurp a little bit. Oh, I wanted to throw a soundtrack up too. So let me go ahead and see what we can do as far as that's. Just want a little bit of light piano in the background, and you let me know if that level is good or not. Should have done that at the start so we could test the soundtrack level. Hi Phyllis, I can see you there. Hey, something extraordinary is happening. I can see your comments actually on my phone, which hasn't happened the last few episodes, as many of you know. So that little glitch, at least for today, worked itself out, which is pretty nice. Nancy says the music is lovely. Lori says it's perfect. Okay, I'm going to leave it right there. So let us start the show, as it were. So here, as you can see, it's 9:30 a.m. on this November morning of 2018. And I came across this on my way to my tour. My tours always start at 10 a.m. I used to do them earlier, but I realized, hey, if I'm not a morning person, then why am I, I'm my own boss. Why am I forcing myself out of bed? So I never, ever do anything before 10 a.m. But here, as you can see, I was very, very early, which is odd. I'm never this early, but there it is. And I was on my way to my favorite cafe, which we'll talk about in a second. And I came across this. So this was right in the Marais, right next to the Saint-Paul metro station. A lot of you know it very well. And I was going to give a tour of Ile Saint-Louis, which is why I was in this area. So with these horses that you see here, and most of them, if you do see them trotting through the Marais, it's because they belong to the complex of the National Guard at the area called Arsenal, which is very close to this area. It's sandwiched between Ile Saint-Louis and Bastille, to give you an idea. And here at this National Guard complex of l'Arsenal, they train horses, up to 150 of them per session. And for days and weeks, these horses live there and they are trained for urban activities. And that's one reason they get these little promenades like you see here. And what they do is it's pretty extraordinary. I saw it on a documentary once where they went inside this complex, and what they do is they set up this whole obstacle course to train these horses. So basically they don't freak out when there is a crisis or something in the city going on, because obviously a farm horse isn't going to be prepared for what the city can throw at it. So they set up this whole obstacle course that they train at daily, and there are inclines and declines that they have to go up and down. They have to jump over these hurdles. There are stairs that the horses have to go up and down, because these are all things that you might come across in an urban setting, right, if it all goes down. They even take these planks of wood that are set up as these little sort of hurdles, and they light them on fire. And they train the horses to not be scared of the fire and to leap over them, and with the smoke and everything. I mean, it's nothing too traumatic, but it just gives the horses a basis of being prepared for anything that the city can throw at them. So I thought that was pretty unique. And I assume once those 150 horses are trained, then they release them out to do their job, and they go and train another set. I'm thinking of you, Heather Liebhart, because there is a slight equestrian theme running through this, and Heather is certainly our resident horse lover, so shout out to you. Lily says, oh, the poor horses. Yeah, I didn't get the sense, they're well taken care of. I got the sense on the documentary that they were just getting prepared for, so they don't freak out whenever they have to do something. I don't think they're setting any horses on fire, so don't worry there, Lily. Excuse me. So then it was 9:30, I had some time to kill, 30 minutes before I was gonna meet my clients. So let's get this started here. And I'm gonna make my way down the street here to La Caféothèque, which is, as many of you know, my all-time favorite cafe. If you're in the Marais, if you're in the 4th arrondissement, if you're near the Seine, you definitely want to do that. So I snapped this photo at 9:46, and of course this is just me doing my thing. I'm not eating croissants at the moment. I'm trying to get on a bit of a low-carb kick, and I know that sounds just absolutely preposterous. I shouldn't even have offered that little tidbit, but at the moment I'm looking at that croissant and I'm thinking, oh boy, it's been a while. But it doesn't mean I'm going to swear off croissants by any stretch of the imagination. But anyway, that's La Caféothèque, and I highly recommend. That's a cappuccino there, and my go-to breakfast when I've got some time to kill. So I'm on Ile Saint-Louis. I'm giving my tour with my clients, just a couple of clients, really lovely. Came across this hotel because the gentleman who was with me asked to pop inside because he had gone to this hotel. He had stayed here many, many years previously, maybe 20 years before, and he just was wondering if it was still there and if it was still the same. So I said, why not? I've never been on this in this hotel. It's right on the main drag of the Saint-Louis-en-Lille street. That's the name of the hotel. So we walked in, and when you're in the lobby, you see the staircase with this kind of rudimentary sort of bust, and you make your way down this old stone staircase into what is essentially the dining room of the hotel. Yesenia says, what is low-carb intake? I know, Yesenia, I shouldn't say that to these Francophiles. That's really sacrilegious. So look at this. This is the dining room where you have your continental breakfast, as it were. And all of these basements of the Ile Saint-Louis are from the 17th century. So you are really right in the thick of it, right in the heart of it. And I'm thinking, man, I would love to get down with some breakfast here in this hotel. This is one of the rooms. And you can see it's got the old stone motif, really classy, really clean. I'm going to show you the prices at the end. I snapped a photo of the prices of this room. So here, you know, the old original wood beam ceiling. This is pretty much how all of Ile Saint-Louis was built. If anybody thinks the music is a little bit too loud, just give me a nice pleasant little note there and say, maybe kick it down one notch. Otherwise, we'll keep the music at this volume. I certainly don't want it to overpower. This is the second bed in the room. And then let me pause here just so you can get an idea of the prices. Pretty reasonable. I mean, to be right in the heart of town, and for those of you who don't know Ile Saint-Louis, it's just, it's like a little village right in the heart of the city. It's a bit of an anomaly because you would think it would be overrun with people and noisy and busy all the time, but it's not. It's really, really lovely. So maybe jot this one down if you're looking for hotel recommendations. You can see right at the bottom there, the Petit Déjeuner buffet is 13 euros per person, and honestly, in that 17th century cellar, totally worth it. I'd almost pay twice that just to touch those old stones while I cram those carbs down my throat. So I finished up my tour of Ile Saint-Louis, and which finished at noon. And you're going to see I came across, whenever I'm in this area, oh, before we even get there, I forgot. This was right next to the hotel. It was a beautiful little boutique. And I'm going to do a zoom in because I thought the design element here with the hanging spheres was really clever. I believe that's fabric and cloth of some sort. And I thought to myself, man, isn't that just Paris in a nutshell? Because the truth is the artistry and the ingenuity and the inspiration is all around. It's not like the boutiques just have this pre-made, fabricated, like super commercialized, factory-made decor brought in. Everything is unique, especially these small mom and pop type boutiques. And I just thought that was a really lovely encapsulation of how all those little moments around you are so artistic and poetic and really warrant, you know, a pause and a meditation, of course, as we all like to do. Andrea says, looks like lace. Yeah, maybe it is, Andrea. Maybe it is. Let's just say it's lace because that makes it sound even more sexy, as it were. Heather says it's like someone made a lamp out of great-grandma's doilies. Yeah, doily art. Hey, Emily, thank you so much for the super chat. I really appreciated that. I appreciate that. That currency has me perplexed. PHP. Maybe, Emily, you can let me know where you're from, because I'm curious as to what currency that is. I forgot to mention, by the way, yeah, super chats are absolutely here. If you want to donate to the cause and help support this whole project, then you can go ahead and click that $ next to your chat box. Unless you're watching on the replay, that won't be available to you. But you're welcome nonetheless. So here I'm finishing up my tour. I come next to the bridge that leads us to Ile Saint-Louis, and this is, again, November 8th exactly. And I just thought the fall colors were a nice touch. Pantheon. Hôtel de Ville and the Tour Saint-Jacques to the left. Kind of goes well with the soundtrack. I think I chose the music well in this particular case. Okay, this actually included, I'm just going to gloss over this part because I included it in a previous episode, which was episode 87. It was called The Private Paris They Let Me See. And there's a beloved old restaurant, some claim it's the oldest restaurant, called Au Vieux Paris d'Arcole. It's just one street over from Notre Dame. It's the one with the beautiful wisteria that hangs, the purple wisteria that hangs in the springtime, etc. Unbeknownst to me, for a long, long time, they have an apartment that they rent. The restaurant itself, if you contact them, a lot of people don't know this, but they own this old apartment tucked away in the courtyard of this very old restaurant. And so I'm just going to run through some of these. And the furniture they got from old flea markets and auctions, and a lot of it is ecclesiastic furniture that comes from old chapels and medieval churches and stuff. Clearly you can see that this is the dining room and the chandelier and the wood beam ceilings. And so even though this is a little bit of a repeat, I thought I'd throw it in because it was in fact this very day that I discovered this. And I said, oh boy, I got to document this apartment. Thank you, my friend David Dubois. He says, here's another donation, monsieur. I appreciate that, Dave. This is the courtyard view from that apartment. And then this is the staircase that leads down. Beautiful old combination of tile and wood, and that green and the orange just for me was, that palette was dynamite. Tapestry, who knows if that's 400 years old or 4 months old, but still sets the mood. This is me descending the staircase of the apartment. So yeah, Au Vieux Paris d'Arcole, go ahead and contact that restaurant, and I'm sure they'll be happy to give you info about the apartment. It's a very, very transporting experience, and I was just lucky that the manager, Frédéric, was very, very kind to let me roam around. So my tour is finished. You can see it's 12:12. I have said goodbye to my clients. Thank you for joining me. Hope to see you again and all that jazz. And then because I was in the area, whenever I have the time, I like to pop into the Hôtel Dieu Hospital. So this is a building right on the parvis of Notre Dame Cathedral. It's just a stone's throw from the church. And some people don't know that you can walk right in. There's a security check, but other than that, because it's a functioning general hospital, everybody's allowed in without any explanation. You know, they don't ask questions, you just open your bag and you can walk right in. And I really highly recommend it because it's always dead quiet. This is a building from the mid-1800s when Napoleon III, as emperor, relocated the old medieval hospital, the Hôtel Dieu, which is actually, as far as the institution itself, this is the oldest hospital in the world. It was founded by a bishop in the year 651. Not 1651, 651 people. That deserves a sip of my café crème. So the institution itself is the oldest, and then Napoleon, as emperor, moved it over to this building. But it's still, you know, a very, very old building. What is it, like 160, 70 years old or so. So you can walk down these grand corridors. Thank you, Tina. I appreciate that super chat. And we're going to start at the slideshow again. So the Hôtel Dieu is just such a treat and so hidden in plain sight. This is underneath a chapel because every good old hotel had a chapel, of course. This hospital was one of the very first to have its own pharmacy. It had its own mill for making flour. It had its own bakery, its own gardens, and growing medicines and things like that. Just a lovely Virgin Mary. And this is looking back toward where Notre Dame would be, sort of in the distance to the left there, beyond the architecture. And the fall colors and everything. Just look at this complex. It's got actually, for me, a very Italian feel to it, which I adore. Thank you so much, Ellen. Ellen says, in the week that my trip to Paris was canceled, this is very much appreciated. Yeah, I know a lot of you are out there. You've had to already cancel your Paris trip this year, or you're about to cancel, and I know that there's a lot of heartbreak happening out there. So if I can help in any possible way, then of course I'm very flattered and honored. I'm very honored to bring a bit of Paris to you all. Onward. Still at the Hôtel Dieu. On the outside of this building, there are bullet holes, quite a few bullet holes that people walk past every day, and it's from when the resistance during the liberation of Paris, 1944, were shooting around at the Nazis who were turning the corner in front of Notre Dame with their tanks. This is part of the chapel area as well, lovely star-painted ceiling. So yeah, on the exteriors of this, not here, but on the exteriors of the complex, always keep your eyes out for bullet holes of the resistance shooting at the Germans. Oh yeah, I can see someone referencing the rooms for rent. I don't know exactly if they still do that today in 2020, but I know that certainly up to recently they have. If you have a family member or friend who's in the hospital, who's sick, then they offer you an apartment or a place to stay in the hospital. And I understand that some of them have the view of the cathedral right across the way, so I'm sure you're getting your money's worth if you happen to stay in that part of the hospital. Look at this, look at these shadows, the shapes, the composition here, and the jazz, it's all getting me in the feels. Thank you, Keith, I appreciate that. Are those Mexican pesos? Looks like it. I really appreciate that, buddy. Many thanks. And you can walk on the top of that colonnade too that I just showed you. So we're gonna be leaving the Hôtel Dieu, but I wanted to show you the garden. Because right when you walk in, they've got a beautiful little manicured garden. Look at that. And it's a throwback to the old medieval/Renaissance days where they'd put these beautiful, everything was about fountains and gardens, and if you were a patient there, of course, you would get some fresh air and you'd roam around. This is a bookstore, so you can see it's now 12:39, I'm starting to get hungry. I crossed the river onto the left bank with Notre Dame and the hotel, the hospital at my back, and I came across this cute little bookstore. It's called La Bibliothèque Idéale, or the Ideal Library, which is kind of a misnomer because it's clearly a bookstore rather than a library. Those of you who have learned any bit of French, you know that bibliothèque means library and librairie means a bookstore where you would purchase books. So that's a bit of a pitfall for us who are learning French. Thank you so much, Bonnie Turbeville. I got that donation. I appreciate it. So this I've never even stepped foot in here, but on this day, on November 8th, 2018, I said to myself, boy, these books look gorgeous. The colors. And so I snapped a few pics that we're going to go through here. A lot of these titles and these books are way too intellectual for my feeble brain, but I thought, I don't know, it was just something about the palette here that felt right. Gorgeous. So this is on the Rue de la Bûcherie, not too far from, on the way to Shakespeare and Company, actually, if you're wondering. So it's, Rue de la Bûcherie runs parallel to the Seine, called La Bibliothèque Idéale, the ideal library. So again, now I'm getting even hungrier, and so I'm going to make my way to lunch in the left bank. Now, I'm calling this the perfect Paris day. And as you can see, so far, I've given my tour, I saw some horses, I had a croissant in a Cafe Cavo. So far, everything's going great. I discovered that old hotel, went down in the basement, got to roam around through that old style hospital. And then here I come across one of my favorite all-time perfect meals, good old duck confit. And I'm sorry, Yesenia and Jerry, who they have a pet duck that they adore and that they take care of and they house. And so I'm always a little bit, I feel bad about showing Yesenia these these images when I'm scoffing down my favorite dish. But there you go, that's a confit de canard. And if you look closely, you'll see exactly why. One reason I like this confit is because it's very crispy. They really crisped up the skin. And if you know me at all, I am very adamant about, if you don't crisp up my duck skin, then I'm never coming back. Because for me, that is one of the, I guess I'm sounding very sort of picky and pretentious about it, but hey, we all have our preferences. You gotta crisp up that duck skin. So you can see I got my glass of red wine and my bread and my potatoes. But another reason I love this place, I'm gonna give you the name of this place in a moment. It's called Bistro 1, Bistro 1, okay, the number 1. And another reason I love it is because check out the view right across the street. It's a cute little side street near the Sorbonne. It's on the Rue de l'École de Médecine. So what you've got here is, Bistro 1 is the name, Bistro the number 1. This is the, called the Institut du Monde Anglophone, which means the World Institute of English Speakers, Anglophones. So it's very interesting, and whenever the doors open, feel free to pop in, but this is literally your view right across from that little quiet side street as you're munching on your duck confit. And I did a zoom in here of the door. A lot of times that door is open with students going in and out, and I've done this before. I highly recommend if the door is open, just go ahead and pop in because the courtyard, it's charming. And then on the right, this sort of little amphitheater. And even though this is kind of an awkward, wonky picture, I took this north-south panorama just to show you my nice crispy skin duck and the view that you get. And you can see the door, in fact, was open. Thank you, John, for that super chat. Really appreciate it. And Juan, it's great to have you here, Juan. He says, I'm grateful for this beautiful imagery today. Merci, Corey. Well, I'm thankful, Juan, to have you here for sure. So there you go, folks. This is the Rue de l'École de Médecine, School of Medicine, right next to the Sorbonne, but oddly extremely quiet. You only have a few businessmen and students walking by. And, you know, if you can find a place with good duck, that's already enough. But if you can find a place with the duck and the view, then you're golden. So next, what I had to do is I had to go at this point and research a future live tour that I was going to give. And it was a tour on Art Nouveau. So I knew that I had to spend the afternoon in the 16th arrondissement. So from here, finished up my lunch, hopped on the RERC, the RER line of the letter C, and I popped over to the 16th arrondissement. And that's when we get into Art Nouveau territory, which is going to be fun for us here. I hope everyone in the comments is consoling Yesenia. Don't worry, Yesenia, there's no more dead duck in this episode. So let me pause here for a moment. When you get off the train in the 16th arrondissement, you're going to come across this large, round, metallic building. And it's called the Maison de la Radio France. So there's this large radio outlet or conglomerate that's called Radio France. And this is the complex that they built, where a lot of the studios are, where they record shows for the radio. And also they have amphitheaters as well. So they record a lot of concerts, orchestral concerts, and things like that. Beautiful auditoriums. And then on the street, I came across these beautiful windows. And I thought, there's flowers set behind these sort of frosted windows, and I thought that was pretty fun. So I went for it. Lois is asking if you can tour this building. I'm not quite sure. As we get towards the Art Nouveau, Hector Guima architecture, this is a cute little cafe with a hotel up above, and I just thought it was rather charming with that beautiful glass awning and the planters. Called Cafe à la Fontaine, because the street is called Rue Jean de la Fontaine, one of the beautiful entrances here. Always look up, folks. Got to always look up. If you haven't seen my episode called the Always Look Up Tour, definitely do that. This is also on the same street of the 16th arrondissement. It was called the Rue Jean de la Fontaine. And you can see the name of this. So usually villa refers to maybe an alleyway or a residential courtyard. They use that word a lot in Paris. So you can see this one's called the Villa Renoir, not to be confused with Renoir. Renoir, as far as I can pronounce it. And I'm going to show you a few shots that I took. I popped under this cute little iron entrance. And this is what you can see, like this large green space in the courtyard, and then two little alleyways that are dead ends on either side to access the apartments. And on the right-hand side, look at this. How gorgeous is that? So again, fall colors. I'm so glad it's actually fitting with the time that I'm broadcasting this episode at the moment. And look at that little table. Isn't that absolutely what you would want to come home to every day? And I got a little bit closer on this next image too. I'll show you this one. Look at that. Let's just meditate on that for a moment. So you may actually want to go back through and watch this episode again with a pen and paper or your Paris notebook, because hopefully I'm going to give you a few extra ideas of things that you can explore, especially in the 16th. It's an arrondissement that a lot of people don't manage to get to or to explore a whole lot. But if you're a fan of Art Nouveau, you certainly do want to come through here. So moving on, let me check in with the comments actually, see what everybody's up to. I hate to feel like I'm avoiding the comments, not avoiding them, but just getting distracted. Catherine says, I'm waiting for the Corey Frye photography coffee table book. Yeah, Catherine, you and me both. I've been waiting for someone to come along and make that book for me, but I realized I'm probably going to have to do it my damn self. So it's on the agenda. My plan for the book, Catherine, is to procrastinate for about 2 more years and get it all out of my system, and then I'm going to totally nail it. So, I'm honest with myself. I just plan in some procrastination because I know it's going to happen whether I want it to or not, to be honest. Hey, Haas Manning's here. Buddy, great to have you as always. He says, Calgon, take me away. All right, back to the slideshow. Oh man, so good. This is just a random house. I thought it was cool because it's essentially almost a tree. Not even just ivy or vines, but almost a tree growing on the side of this house. They can't even see out their windows, but I'm sure they're not complaining. So here we come across, this is where the Art Nouveau comes in, of the 16th arrondissement. And I did an entire episode, a live tour dedicated to this area. So go and check that out on my YouTube channel if you haven't seen it. It's called the Art Nouveau Tour. And I can't remember what number it was, but this is called the Castel Béranger. And this was Hector Guima, the guy who did the metro entrances of Paris, those beloved green cast iron Art Nouveau beauties. And he designed, this is one of the very, very earliest Art Nouveau examples in all of Paris. This is finished in 1898, to give you an idea. And this was the Belle Époque, people. And Art Nouveau was born out of that. Art Nouveau wasn't necessarily born in Paris, but Paris was an absolute breeding ground, because the Haussmannian restrictions that they put on architecture and development were lifted at this time. So you didn't have to follow a lot of rules, and the architects were given free rein to just go wild and to express themselves. And Hector Guimard absolutely did that. This was his first solo commission. Let me go ahead and advance the slides here. His first solo commission, there was an eccentric wealthy widow who wanted an apartment building, like an actual huge complex that she could own and rent out. And you can see the name of this one. So she was, basically she said to this Guima, who was 30 years old and an unknown architect, she said, you know what, surprise me. I'm not going to give you any stipulations or any ideas, just wow me, blow me away with something. And so this is what he did. This is the main entrance. And this is just absolutely just pure Art Nouveau glory, for lack of a better word. Ceramics and iron and stained glass. And this place won Best Paris Facade of 1898. So the year it was completed, it won that contest across, citywide for the most beautiful exterior. This is part of the windows on the outside, and people still live here, still an apartment building. I'm gonna zoom in a little bit here so you can see the cat. There are a lot of animal motifs used in Art Nouveau. And keep that in mind, because I'm gonna mention that in a moment. I've got something really, really fun to point out. So beautiful Art Nouveau style cat. And this isn't the best photo in the world, but I zoomed in and got a look at those very ornate little railings. So here we've got a kid next door, by the way. I hope she's not too loud for y'all. It just adds to the soundtrack, I guess, of this autumn day. So this cafe was also built by Guima, because all along this street, this is a street that you definitely want to check out for Art Nouveau, the Rue Jean de la Fontaine. And they commissioned Guima over the course of several years to build all of these beautiful Art Nouveau buildings. And this one here that he built a cafe as well. And today it's called the Cafe Cavo. And we're going to talk about this cafe in a moment, but this cute little cafe, the only one designed by the Art Nouveau master Guima, was part of a larger apartment building that you can see here. And I got to show you something extraordinary, because I don't think, let me toot my own horn a little bit here. I'm feeling cocky. I don't think any other tour guide is going to bring this to your attention. I don't think anybody has ever discovered this or figured this out, because I Google it and I can't find it anywhere else. I mentioned that there were a lot of animal motifs that were used. And one of them was the seahorse. I don't know, but during Art Nouveau, the posters, the architecture, the sculpture, the paintings, all used seahorses. And I want to show you on Google Maps, I randomly was looking from a bird's eye view, and I found the courtyard of this complex that Guima built, the interior courtyard. And tell me what you see. Now, I tilted it a little bit. As you can see, the names are a little askew, because I just, for fun, I tilted the compass of Google Maps. But tell me, look at that the shape of that interior courtyard, and you tell me that isn't Hector Guima being a little bit sneaky, a little bit coy, and very subtly sneaking in a freaking seahorse. Now, is that random, or is that, I've never come across this. Yeah, Tina says seahorse, Angie says no way. Now, come on. I think that's pretty fun. That always brings a smile to my face, and it's one of the sort of very fun enigmas or curiosities that, again, I've never found anybody else who's ever mentioned it or talked about it, because of course I tried to verify it. But for my money, I think he's being sneaky there, because look at the contours. Like, did he really have to make, like on the left-hand side where the snout of the seahorse would be, did he really have to do that? I think he's doing it aesthetically. So I can see a lot of you in the comments agree with me, and I'm glad you do. I'm glad I'm not just crazy. Lucienne says, so fabulous, running out of adjectives. You know, Lucienne, you know a word that I've been employing more often, because I'm known for not having great vocabulary when it comes to beautiful, amazing, stunning, gorgeous. I kind of use the same old words. But I want to use stupendous more. What about stupendous? I think that's got some gravitas to it, right? And it's got some bold sounds, like the stupendous, it's got that p. And I don't know, I'm gonna go with that, stupendous. That's my new go-to adjective. Thank you, Leslie, for that super chat. She says, you never disappoint, Corey. This is what we love. And I love you right back, Leslie. Love everybody who's watching. So that's kind of fun. And hopefully you can see the street names here. If you want to, I don't know if anybody will let you in this courtyard. I've never been able to get inside the interior, but it's fun to think of. So we're going to get back to this cafe, because I did go in this cafe, I had a coffee, and it's absolutely another address that I want you to check out. Now look at that, folks. Tell me that isn't a screenshot, a background for your phone. I'm sure Hector Guima would appreciate that compliment, right? Hey, I got it as a background on my phone. He'd be like, whatever. But you can just see the tiny, especially at the top, the tiny little Art Nouveau flourishes. Subtle, but so elegant. And you can see in the center it says Café Antoine, but don't be fooled by that. That's not the current name. The current name of this is Cafe Cavo, C-R-A-V-A-N, Cavo. And I'll explain what that name was. Oh, I should just do it right now. The guys who own it right now are interesting. They are boxers, like amateur boxers, semi-pro boxers, but also poets and philosophers and artsy types. And they seem like really cool guys, you know, really sort of hipster beard type, but not in a pretentious way. And they told me, like, yeah, we're into boxing, but also other things. And I asked why they named the cafe the way they named it. Turns out that one of Oscar Wilde's nephews was called Arthur Cavon. And Arthur Cavon was both a boxer and a poet. So I thought that was pretty clever that these owners here, relatively young chaps, felt like they identified with Oscar Wilde's nephew in that respect. So they named this Cafe Cavo. So it's a very subtle detail, very obscure, but I think it just adds to the mystique and the charm of this place. So this cafe was built in 1911 by Hector Guima. As I mentioned, it's the only cafe that the architect ever built, which is pretty extraordinary. And it's absolutely local, 100% local. It's not a tourist destination at all, and it's absolutely a gem, hidden right there in plain sight at the 16th arrondissement. Jennifer Robinson says, "Oh my God, I love the red." Bruce says, "Calendar shot." Marlene says, "Elegant." Yeah, along with stupendous, we can use elegant today. I like that one. So let's get a little bit closer. Can you see on the, like towards the left, it says chocolat and apéritif? That's from the old school days when this cafe was in its early days. And I took some zoom in, some up close shots of that because I thought it was really charming. So isn't that beautiful how they had to fill in this? I think this is like enamel, but they had to improvise with the pieces that fell off over the years. 1911, folks. This cafe was built at the same time the Titanic was built, getting ready to set sail. So bière being beer. Apéritif, just really, really charming stuff. And then I popped inside because I said, oh geez, I mean, I'm here when in Rome, I gotta have a coffee. And it's very tiny, very cozy. These are, shout out again to Heather Liebhart, there is in fact an equestrian theme running through this, unintentionally, but it's the case. There are two beautiful canvases behind glass, and they were done by an artist called Merou, M-E-R-O-U, who was an artist that decorated a lot of Belle Époque cafes, and always with the subject matter of sports and leisure. Of course, the bourgeois and the aristocracy during the Belle Époque would have absolutely either ridden horses or used it as a pastime, whether they were watching polo being played or horse racing and things like that, right? So this is just absolutely elegant. And these are d'origine, as they would say in French, from the era, original from the same period. So you're surrounded by these large looming equestrian canvases as you're sipping on your café crème. And then the ceilings are spectacular as well. Stupendous, I would even say. The ceilings themselves were done by, it's painted glass, right? And I've explained this before, where you would take a sheet of glass and paint the image backwards, hand paint it backwards, and then flip the piece of glass over, install it forevermore, and it would remain perfectly protected and preserved. So that's what's going on here. And I did see that, John, that you sent your super chat. It says, from Rose. Oh, thank you, Rose. I appreciate that. Shout out to Rose and John who are watching. So the father-son team it was a group who mostly did bakeries and butcher shops, which you can still see today. If you go into an old bakery like the oldest bakery in Paris called Storeur, you will see this. If you go into Chez Julien in the Marais, that used to be a bakery, that beautiful place, has these same type of ceilings. And they were all painted, a lot of them by this father and son team. The only weird thing about this, or the only peculiarity, is this is the only time that father-son team did a ceiling for an actual cafe. They usually did, as I said, the bakeries and the butcher shops and things like that. So it's extremely rare, I believe, to my knowledge, that this was the only time they did it for a cafe. And you can see that beautiful metallic molded section there. So there's a lot going on in this beautiful, beautiful little cafe. So this was a Hector Guimard street sign. So they allowed him, when he was doing the buildings, he designed a couple of the street signs as well. And so you can see this is absolutely Art Nouveau flair. I am just just looking at one thing here, okay. I'm gonna let you all, I'm gonna keep playing the soundtrack. I'm gonna let you all meditate on this beautiful street sign made out of mosaics. I don't think it's actual gold. I've got to just run and grab a battery real quick, because that's the one thing I forgot. So I will be back in 1 second. Talk amongst yourselves. Enjoy the jazz. Shall I? Okay, I'm back. Sorry for that. I remembered to bring everything out except for the old battery. These electronics have a knack for constantly sucking all the juice that I need. The good thing is, when I say talk amongst yourselves, I happen to know that all of you freaks out there are in fact very good at doing exactly that. All right, let's start again. So here, once again, equestrian theme. There's just across the street from the Guima Cafe, there's this beautiful fountain with the horse theme. And here in this case, how gorgeous is that? My goodness. And all of this is it's in a part of Paris that there's so much beauty you don't even have time to see in a typical 2-week stay or 1-month stay. Like, there's so much to do in the city, you don't even manage to get to this beauty, and I hope you do, in fact, one day. Let me also... Sorry, I'm charging all sorts of different things here. There we go, cool. Now, there is a reason that the horses are here. It's because this is called Square Henri Collet. And in 1993, they were realizing that this space was a former place of horses. It was called Le Pré aux Chevaux, or the horse meadow. So I don't know if they kept stables with horses, or they trained horses, or horses were just hanging out here, munching on hay. I don't know. But anyway, that is a throwback to the fact that this part of the arrondissement used to be called essentially the horse meadow. And so just an absolutely lovely fountain. This is all in one day, folks. This is all one November day in 2018. Thanks, Juan. Oh, Juan double dipping with the super chats today. Thank you, my man. He says the signage in Paris is spectacular. A little florist thrown in for good measure. Why not? This is a street called the Avenue Théophile Gautier. And I just thought the trees were particularly lovely. I don't know what kind of trees those are. As you know, I'm really bad with species of trees and whatnot. But I just thought that was quite lovely how they almost create a canopy. And then this is nearby as well. This is crèche, meaning daycare. I just thought it was really cute that it almost has an old London feel. And I feel like it could come straight out of like a Sherlock Holmes movie or something. And that old sign, which is God knows how old. So this says the daycare of the 16th arrondissement. Œuvre nouvelle des crèches parisiennes. It says a new work or a new version of the Parisian daycare. So maybe at the time of building this, it was rather innovative. This is the Rue François Millet, if anybody's keeping track. François Millet. It's very close to everything that we've been talking about. And we're not done yet because this day continued. So let's see, 3:30 p.m. here. This is very, very close by as well. This is a complex called the Auteuil Foundation, because we're also venturing into a part of Paris that's referred to as Auteuil. And technically it's called the Jardin de la Maison des Orphelins Apprentis d'Auteuil, and that's more than a mouthful. But it basically is a charity founded in the 1860s that was for abandoned and wayward children. And it would offer them housing and a trade school so they could actually learn a trade and be self-sustaining, so they could learn carpentry and plumbing and mechanics and locksmithing. It started only with 5 kids back in the 1860s, but today it takes in about 10,000 underprivileged kids every year. And so it's a big charitable organization, and it gives them still vocational training to this day. And obviously that's one of the best gifts that you can give a kid that would otherwise end up in, God knows where, doing God knows what. So this is really lovely, and we're going to talk about this church in a moment. But look to the left, you can see there's actually a cloister. And it's not necessarily a medieval cloister. It was built around the same time in the 19th century, as far as I know, but I got to show you some images. So looking at the church, if you pop a left, some of you may remember this from the tour extension I did for the Frites. This was the day that I discovered it. Look at this beautiful little cloister. And it's all part of this charitable complex that they've got going. And there are shops around that are owned by the charity, and they are very reasonably priced, run by volunteers. And of course the prices are very low, so that everything's accessible to people. And I just thought that was spectacular. I mean, I just got to stop here for a moment, because you put this in a smaller city, put this somewhere else in the world, and all of a sudden it becomes one of the highlights that people want to see, and they want to see, quote unquote, the cloister of the Auteuil Foundation. But again, man, Paris has almost so much going for it, that little moments like this, beautiful, stupendous moments, almost get lost in the sauce. And I actually think that's pretty spectacular, and that's what I love about the city. It has so much to give that you have to actually, you gotta keep going and keep going and keep going and keep going. And I've been going for 10 years and I still haven't hit the bottom of the bucket, as it were. So I just wanted to pause on this, because hopefully you can hear the excitement in my voice, because this is just absolutely stupendous, for lack of a better word. So someone asked for the spelling of Auteuil. It is A-U-T-E-U-I-L. Hopefully you got that. And this is inside of the chapel. This is called the Chapel of St. Teresa. Some nice stained glass, a very quiet, calm church from the 1920s. So it's neo-Gothic, meant to look medieval, but relatively new. Falling in, though, with right around the sort of Art Nouveau into Art Deco period, but they certainly went for the neo-Gothic. And that's another shot. Look at that beautiful little carousel. Ugh. That church claims to have relics of St. Teresa's hair and some of her bone. I tried to locate them, and if they're in there, they're very tiny and in a little reliquary, and I couldn't really see anything in there, so I don't know if they used to be there and they were destroyed during the Revolution, or you can go in there and look for yourself. Maybe if you scan the insides, the interiors close enough, maybe you'll find St. Teresa's hair. And this is all in the complex, same part of probably where they teach the children, in that building there on the bottom. Okay, and we're leaving the Auteuil Foundation. And this is just a random building. I was thinking, how spectacular would it be to live in that apartment up there and to have that little spot? Of course, my go-to fantasy is always that I'm having my morning coffee whenever I imagine myself in these spaces. So I'm heading up the hill a little bit. Here you come into, there's actually a gate that you can't access this, but you can poke your camera through, certainly, and that's what I did here. This is an old palace that is now used by a company called, I think it's pronounced Beija-Fleur. And Beija-Fleur, as far as what I can tell, they're a management consulting firm, which actually is one of those terms that I don't know what the hell it means. But there you go, management consulting. They basically help businesses to adapt to like the digital marketplace and blah, blah, blah. But they must be doing well, because their offices inhabit one of these old hôtels particuliers with this great sprawling garden that you can't access, but you can certainly enjoy as you're walking by. There's another shot of it too. And then it's a little park further up. The name eludes me, sorry, I can't think of the name, but it's real close by. And it was just a fall day and the colors, and so I snagged a few. Again, keep in mind, this is what I'm calling one of my all-time perfect Paris days, because there was so much. It was so dense with beautiful sights and discoveries, and you got the sun coming through. And then right next to this park is the Place Rodin, named after the sculptor, and there is a copy of one of his statues here. And this statue has a fun little anecdote behind it. It was a version of his famous statue called the Age of Bronze in 1877. And it was partly inspired by Michelangelo's, if you're familiar with Michelangelo's Dying Slave, which is in the Louvre, in the great Renaissance portion of the sculptures there. So drew inspiration from that, from the Dying Slave of Michelangelo. But actually Rodin used a Belgian soldier for this pose and copied his forms. Now, what's the funny anecdote is there was a lot of controversy when this first exhibited in the Paris Salon, because everyone accused Rodin of cheating. They said, this is so realistic and so lifelike. You must have cheated and just made a cast of this guy's body, because there's no way that you could, with your bare hands and your eyeballs, create such a perfect representation of the human form. And eventually Rodin was able to convince people that no, in fact, I did do this for real. This was not just a cast. I wasn't cheating. And that just helped further cement his, I just lost my iPad. I tried to charge it right in time. Oh well. Anyway, that's fine. So anyway, we won't have the soundtrack for a minute or so. Couldn't stay on top of the whole charging thing. But I think that's a fun, so this is the Place Rodin. And just hiding out there, no big deal. And this is just a random building, no anecdote, no famous artist, but I like how the shadows were cast along the balcony there. And this is just a random apartment complex as I was making my way up the hill with a doorway. Just really spectacular when you're lucky enough to have these days where it's just so full. You know, I guess if you're a tourist, maybe you can intentionally pack your days with this much awesomeness because you're planning it ahead of time. And I've certainly done that when I've traveled to foreign cities. But the fact that for me this was essentially just a work day where I had to get a few things done, give my tour and blah, 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 and then I would just pop in here, pop in there. This is a beautiful building from the Art Deco period, so it's got a little bit of that vibe. If you're not familiar, Art Nouveau, which was very, flourishes and elegant and gestural and fluid, moved very quickly into this almost reactionary period of Art Deco where everything went back to more sober and simple in a way, but still very sort of concise and efficient forms. So this is Art Deco. I love the color. And if you're wondering about, we got the soundtrack back again. Here we go. Let's fire this up. If you're wondering about the price of this bad boy, if you're saying, hey, I wouldn't mind buying myself an apartment in that Art Deco building, you know that it's about 10,000 euros per square meter, which in American dollars would be about $1,000 per square foot to purchase. So if you happen to know the square footage of your apartment or your house, go ahead and multiply that times 1,000, and that would give you the general price to purchase. That, in fact, is affordable when you're out in the 16th arrondissement, because if you want to buy a place, say, in Saint-Germain-des-Prés or the Marais or the center of town, the prices are going to be up to 50% higher. $1,300 a square foot, $1,500 a square foot, and it just goes up and up and up. So anyway, I did take one other photo of just zooming in on the balconies here, and you can see a little bit of the Art Deco coming through in the ironwork there. That's very sort of Great Gatsby 1920s, 30s era. And then we're finishing up here. This is called the Avenue de Mozart, as in Amadeus Mozart. And I just thought, this area isn't awesome enough, but you've got an avenue named after one of the best composer musicians of all time. I'm a fan of Mozart, and if you're a fan of artistic genius at all, frankly, you got to give it up to old Amadeus. So I got a kick out of the fact that this was called Avenue Mozart, and I'll show you a bakery that is on this avenue too that has a fun name. There was a cafe here that I just thought was rather charming. Love the colors. As you know, there's something about Paris does blues and greens like no other place in the world. I don't know where they find these hues. And this, even though it's a, you know, like it's a used table, you know, it's ashtray with cigarette butts and empty coffee cups, and a plastic spoon. I just thought it was really, really charming to zoom in on that detail. I forgot to get the soundtrack going again. And here's the last image, folks, of the episode, La Baguette de Mozart. So you can see the name of the street to the right there. And I just thought, man, if you got to go to your local bakery each day to grab your baguette, why not go to La Baguette de Mozart? Love it. Love it, love it. And there you have it, folks. That's about as perfect a Paris day as I've ever found. And like I said, for me, what makes things perfect is the unexpected discoveries. And this day, as you can see, had one after the next, or one after the last. So hopefully you enjoyed this single day, a single day's walk through town. And I think nowadays, it's certainly even more important than ever to imagine what a really good day in Paris would look like and feel like. So it'll go down. And as I said, I didn't even notice that that day was so lovely until I was going through my camera roll 2 years later, almost 2 years later, and just said, wait a minute, this happened and then this happened and this happened. It was all right there in front of me, and I thought that warrants an episode. By the way, before I forget, I want to mention something. I was a little bit sneaky on this episode. Did any of you catch it? If you did, don't say it in the comments. But I slipped a little something into one of the photos today for fun to see if anyone would catch it. Let me know in the comments without saying what it was. Let me know if you noticed anything. I inserted a little bit of an Easter egg. And all I will say as a clue, because you may want to go back and see if you can find it. In one of the photos, I photoshopped in a reference to the watch-along that we did of Midnight in Paris. So let me know, did anyone catch that? Any eagle-eyed folks? I'm not going to tell you where in the episode it was, but I decided on a whim to have a bit of fun, and it slipped a little Easter egg in there that you will recognize when you see it. You'll recognize it. Let me see if anybody. You let me know. I'm going to check the comments if anybody noticed it. And if you do go back on the replay and you find what I'm talking about, do me a favor and don't put exactly what it is in the comments of this video. Just let other people try to figure it out. You can let me know that you found it, but just don't give it away, just for fun. So I think that's about it. If you're a Patreon member and you're in our Facebook group, the Cafe Chats group, then let's pop over and do a cafe chat. It's going to be, there's not much cafe to go along with the chat, and this is probably ice cold. It's basically an iced latte, but I'm not complaining. All right, well, let's see. Lily says all these colors are a real blessing. Yeah. Thanks everybody for showing up. There are 204 of you here. And I'm so glad that I saw your comments not only on the side screen, but even on the normal screen, which is kind of an anomaly. So hopefully, if that glitch has worked itself out, I'll be a happy, happy live streamer. I think that's all I want to say. So give me about 5 minutes, and maybe I'll make another coffee. If you're a Patreon member, give me 5 minutes and meet me over in the Facebook group, and we'll have a chat. If you're not a Patreon member, I'll put the link in the description here, and you can become one to get extra content and to support the cause. Speaking of which, thanks to all of you who sent me super chats during this. And for those of you who want to send something through PayPal, you can do that as well with my email. That's all. Why am I dragging out these goodbyes? This was a home edition, number 96. We're getting so close to number 100. Can you believe it? It's wild. Take care of yourselves. I hope you're feeling good in here and here, everywhere. I hope you're feeling good everywhere. And I'll see y'all on the next video. Take care and keep dreaming of those perfect Paris days, because they do exist. They can happen at any time, and I'm sure there are a few of them in your future as well. Take care, everybody. I'll catch you on the next video. Have a lovely rest of your day. Bye-bye.